Hey guys, thank you so much for downloading and listening to this episode of On the Beat. Have you rated or reviewed us yet? If not, why? The best way for us to grow is by sharing us with your friends and rating and reviewing us wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify has a new rating feature right on our podcast front page. It is super easy, and the more 5-star ratings and reviews we get, the better it is for us to grow. If you screenshot and DM us your review, we'll share the most flattering ones on an upcoming episode. Thank you so much for listening, and your support is marvelous and appreciated. Holy shit. You getting ready?
I was just trying to clear my throat because I'm obviously having trouble breathing. Like as it is right now, for whatever reason.
Oh my god. This is going to be a rough hour.
Yeah, a couple hours probably. I mean, we already went through
I'm not talking about this for more than an hour.
A rough couple hours with the Last Duel because it's 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Hello there! Welcome to On the Beat, the podcast that uncovers full frontal male nudity in cinema. My name is Laura, and I am joined by my co-host Ryan.
Hello.
We're doing a new one today.
Yeah, this film was only released last year.
Yeah, we did not see this in the cinema.
Yeah, to roaring reviews, I hear.
Roaring reviews of anger?
Don't agree with that.
Ooh.
But he's got plenty of shit under his belt, and to be honest, he's quite mouthy about it. If we were wrong, he'd probably tell us.
We are about to talk about the 2021 historical drama The Last Duel, starring Matt Damon, Adam Driver, Jodie Comer, and Ben Affleck, directed by Sir Ridley Scott.
Oh, look, see, he's a knight as well.
Yeah.
He got himself knighted by the Queen.
He looked at a script that said there were knights in it, and he goes, I'm just like them.
I'm going to fucking do that now.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something I've kind of done already at least 3 times with other movies, but here we go.
This one's a little bit different.
This is going to be a blinder.
This one was written by the boys who did How About Them Apples?
Yeah, how about them apples, huh? Fuck. Because how many scripts have, Matt and Ben, penned so far? Other than Good Will Hunting, how many have they actually penned?
Other than Good Will Hunting?
Other than Good Will Hunting.
1.
This is it?
This one.
Oh my...
They haven't written together in 25 years, and they came together, I believe, after Matt Damon read this book. Who wrote this book? Eric Yeager?
It's a 2004 book.
Yep, by the same name, and he goes, Hey buddy, Ben?
My buddy Ben.
Hey buddy Ben, would you like to do this movie with me? And buddy Ben's like, heck yeah, bro.
Wow, okay.
Hey best friend, let's do this.
Is that how Project Greenlight works as well?
Sure.
Okay, buddy Ben comes in.
Hey buddy
and
Ben, and he goes, hey best bro. And then they kiss, and they
kiss
love
the contestants of Project Greenlight?
Yep, and they kiss each other.
Wow.
Just like they do in the movie during the wedding scene.
They do, yeah. There's little boy kisses during the wedding scene. But we'll get to that when we get to that, because that is some fucking shit right there. So I'm going to go straight in and be like, I remember they announced this movie. And obviously we've had COVID and stuff. We had COVID. We still have COVID going on right now. I remember seeing a few years ago when they announced this film, and I saw some screenshots. I saw some screenshots of Affleck and Matt Damon and stuff like that, and I think my immediate reaction was what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
What is this that they're doing? Because I don't know if you've seen the Great Wall.
Oh, no, I definitely have not watched that movie, but I know. Yeah,
the Zhang Yimou, American starring, I don't know if it's Chinese funded, but either way, it was a film he made. It's terrible.
Right.
And you're like, what the fuck is Matt Damon doing in this? This is also a kind of thing where I'm just it's another one of those grossly miscast Ridley Scott historical epics.
Correct.
Of which we've seen quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
I think in one of the earlier episodes, I think I mentioned that we were probably never going to cover, one of my all-time favorite films. Because I think, obviously, Blade Runner doesn't have a dick in it or anything like that.
And I'm always very happy when you tell me that you don't get to talk about your favorite directors, you don't get to talk about your favorite movies because there's no penises in them. And once again, here you are.
Yeah, how much have I
aghast and abashed.
Yes, no, I've been proven wrong, obviously,
Damn
because
right.
that's just what's happened there. Like, he's very, like, I would say he's probably the definition of a prolific director. Now, whether you agree with all of the content that he puts out there, and I think he's under the impression that you should, he is making shit well into his elderly years.
He's like the definition of an angry grandpa, full of piss and vinegar.
Thing is, like,
doesn't take shit.
I haven't really got a problem with any of that stuff because that's been his approach to filmmaking just in general. Like, he does not stop. Like, he does not give a fuck about how you feel. Like, that's just the way he's always been.
I like it.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, we're going to get into some real shit with this movie, but, like, Ridley Scott is easily one of my favorite filmmakers of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think the stuff he's made, certainly the good stuff, because I think his career is very black and white. It's either amazing or it's total shite.
He's made your favorite film. He made your favorite film.
He did, yeah. My favorite film of all time is Blade Runner. I feel like visually it's a film that hasn't been surpassed, in my opinion. I guess there's a few contenders out there, like Paris, Texas would probably be a very good example of a film that looks amazing.
Cool, because we... instead of watching something good like Paris, Texas the other night, we watched Lawnmower Man 2, Job's War.
That movie's actually not as bad as people say it is.
Anyway. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Keep going. Ridley Scott, Papa Scott.
Yeah, Ridley Scott, Papa Scott. Part of the Scott family, because he's not, obviously Ridley Scott is not the only one with to bear the name Scott. I mean, he's 3 children. I think all 3 of his kids now make films. I think it's Jordan, Luke, and the other one.
To God, I thought you were going to say all of his kids were named Scott. Like
Scott.
Scott.
Scott the third.
He's not the only one to bear the name Scott. Like his first, second, and third son.
Yeah. One of them's a girl. But I think I mean more like specifically about I'd say Tony Scott is probably the most famous of the Scott brethren, I would say. And unfortunately he's no longer with us either. Because he committed suicide.
Okay,
because he's also one of my other favorite filmmakers of all time.
Yeah, you keep trying to show me Tony Scott movies, and I'm like,
I still think to this day, like the early career of Ridley and Tony Scott, that is what I've based, like the optimal, like visual look to, like films in general.
Tony Scott did True Romance.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay, I really like that movie.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Ridley.
Yeah.
My apologies.
But we'll get into that kind of the smoke, because I feel like that's what it all kind of comes down to is the prevalence of smoke. Also, before Tony's death, they had Scott Free Productions. Obviously, Ridley still has Scott Free Productions.
Oh.
And there's also Ridley Scott Associates, which is his
collection of attorneys.
No, it's
Ridley Scott and Associates.
No, I mean they sign up and coming directors, visualists, photographers. He got his start. I mean, he was at the Royal College of Art. He directed a film. He made a film while he was there that also starred his obviously late brother Tony and his late father, called The Boy and the Bicycle, and it's easily one of the best first-time filmmaking short films I think that's ever been made.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's really nice. It's a really beautiful film. Huh. It should be on YouTube, but if it's not on YouTube, the only other place to get it would be on the Duelists DVD. He gets his start as a set designer, and he worked for the BBC, and he directed some shows on the BBC, but he did like set designing for like Z Cars and stuff like that in the 60s.
Okay.
But he'd be more well known for his background in advertising. So when Ridley Scott gets his start doing advertising, and this is one of the stories I remember reading in a book of advertising. I think it was called Get Smashed, I think.
Okay.
It was an intimate look at the advertising boom in the 60s in Britain. And there was an advert that Ridley Scott was shooting, and it was basically about Home Invader. And it's seen from the Home Invader's point of view. And obviously it's like leading towards, and then there's like a product placement and something. So like it's
Oh my
like,
God.
yeah, it's like this product's so hard, like it's so hard to get, you have to break into people's homes basically. So Ridley Scott was the camera operator on this, and they were using this setup where he had it on a helmet and the camera was on his head. So like there's no support or anything. He's just like putting this thing on top of his head and he's just like hoping for the best. I think they took about 70 takes of this thing, and every time he would go in through the window, it would bump off the helmet. There was no padding in the helmet.
Oh my God.
And it would bash into his head. So by the time they got to like take 30, he's got a gash in the side of his head bigger than his thumb, and he's bleeding all the way down his face.
Oh.
40 takes later, he's then happy with what he's gotten. And he didn't bother doing anything about it. Like, this is the sort of tenacity that I quite like from this man. Like, this is something that he just kind of brings in there. There's a massive advertising boom in the UK into the late 60s and into the 70s. So this is when advertising as a whole starts to be more considered as an art form. So basically, the directors who they're pulling in, and I'm saying Adrian Lyne, Alan Parker, Tony Scott, Ridley Scott, and a handful of others. Also, this is where a bunch of other British cinematographers come in.
Okay.
And they all have this very distinctive, smoky, kind of textured look about their stuff. So, like, all those adverts you saw for, like, Oxo or Smash or those kind of fast, crazy, like, kind of car commercials. And, like, the Hovis adverts from back in the day, made by these filmmakers. And, like, you can see, like, a stylistic synergy that kind of fuels all of them. Now, they're all slightly different. They all have different kind of focuses and stuff like that. But you can see stylistically, like, they're making stuff that looks nothing like what the rest of the world is making.
Right, okay.
And I feel like that's something that's kind of gradually been lost as we move into a more digital age.
Tell me about his movies.
He's made over 100 adverts by the time he makes The Duelists in 1977. I know quite a lot about Ridley Scott because I did an essay on him. I did Ridley Scott in a tour ship. I did back in the day. That was a course I failed, but anyway.
Oh my God.
In terms of like his filmmaking career, he's made good stuff and he's made bad stuff.
Yes.
So in terms of the good stuff, because we don't really need to kind of list it off too much, he's made The Duelist, Alien, Blade Runner, Legend, Black Rain, Thelma and Louise, Gladiator, Black Hawk Down, Matchstick Men, American Gangster, The Martian. That's the stuff I kind of like.
Yeah, I like a lot of
personally.
those movies.
Yeah. But then he has also made some other things like Someone to Watch Over Me and Prometheus and White Squall, you know, where it's all a bit shit, to be honest. I mean, Prometheus is the only movie that I feel like has made me more angry than anything I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, I think you're definitely within a collective of people who really hate the new Alien films.
I thought Covenant was fine.
I'm not one of them. I thought Prometheus was fine, and I really, really liked Covenant, but that's not... He didn't do that.
What's that?
Alien Covenant.
Yeah, he did.
He did?
Yeah.
That movie's fucking awesome.
Yeah, no, that film's actually fine, but I mean, everyone assumed it was going to be a trash fire.
I didn't assume anything because I didn't hate Prometheus.
Yeah, well, Prometheus
It's not hard
terrible.
to like please me, and I'm saying that at a time where we watched The Last Duel, and I kind of hated it. He's got an interesting upbringing and a career, and he's made some amazing films.
So yeah, Sir Ridley Scott. Well, he's a knight now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like the people in this movie. He's a knight.
Oh my God. Well, I heard about how this kind of came to be because after making The Martian, Matt Damon had said that he and Ridley really wanted to work together again, so they're trying to find a project.
Yeah.
You know, because they're like such cool friends.
Well, the film did really well.
Martian's good.
Yeah, Martian did really well. Did
I
well at the
liked it.
Golden Globes, and it's a fantastic watch. Like, it's just a super interesting watch.
I mean, to just have to watch Matt Damon for as many hours as that movie is tough, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
hate Matt Damon.
I don't hate Matt Damon either.
He's fine.
You know, I mean, he was cast as Jason Bourne, and there was probably a lot of people that could have been cast as Jason Bourne at that point, but he's kind of a weird casting in this movie, I would say.
Well,
everybody is technically.
They were trying to find a project to do together. So then when Ben Affleck and Matt Damon wrote, or were working on the script, they got to Ridley. Ridley's like, yeah, that's cool.
Well, Ridley's like, I've made at least 3 of these already.
Yeah.
Obviously the best of which would be Gladiator, and I don't think there's any contest with that one.
Yeah, no, Gladiator's awesome.
And he's also covered very similar material because he did Kingdom of Heaven with Orlando Bloom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Crusades.
Yeah, no, I think the Crusades is interesting.
And that also being an interesting thing, that this is such a famous story that has been documented and documented again. It's so well documented.
Yeah.
And as a person who got her undergrad minor in medieval and Renaissance studies and has done French medieval history, I did not know this story.
Oh, that's weird.
And I'm super annoyed at that because I had a coworker telling me, and he told me the end. He goes, oh no, it's fine because it's a historical event. Like, you'll know the end of the story. So he told me what happened at the end of the movie. And I'm like, damn it. I still wanted to see it, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But
I mean, even if you didn't know what it was, I mean, I did know about this story beforehand. I didn't know what they were going to do in the film with it. I mean, effectively what they do is they turn this quite interesting moment in history, certainly in French history, and they make it interminably boring up until the last 15 minutes.
Okay, and you know what? I'm realizing that we've been talking for 20 minutes. Let me give you the synopsis. King Charles VI declares that Knight Jean de Carouge settle his dispute with his squire by challenging him to a duel.
Okay.
I didn't realize that. So Adam Driver plays the squire.
He does, yeah.
And Matt Damon plays Jean de Carouge.
Yes.
Who is the knight. I didn't realize he was his squire. I didn't think he was his squire.
I didn't realize if he was.
Or to be a squire is to be everyone's squire.
Well, he was the squire. He was his squire at the beginning of the movie, I feel. Like when they're going off to war. And they're obviously, I think they're fighting the English, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm kind of placing that on you as you are the classified historian.
I told you I don't know about this story.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're
the
not
French
the
were always fighting
right,
the English. And it's during the 100 Years' War, so that's what's happening.
That's 100% what's happening then.
The tagline for this film is, "The true story of a woman who defied a nation and made history."
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically this woman is raped and she tells it on the top of a mountain, and makes sure everyone knows under penalty of death.
Not even just death, like the worst kind of death.
Oh, absolutely. What was it? Dragged through the town and then burned alive or something?
She's shackled, she's dragged through the town, she's stripped naked, she's tied to a pole, and then they set her on fire.
This doesn't happen in the film. By the way, this is going to be riddled with spoilers, so if you haven't seen it and want to see it.
It's also a historical story, and whether or not you feel like it might be spoiled for you, that's fine. I would also point out that it's also incredibly dull.
Right. I mean, obviously, we're not getting into our ratings right now, but if you follow us on Letterboxd, you'll know how we feel already, which is not amazing.
No.
I fell asleep maybe 4 times during this film.
Yeah.
And granted, if I watch something after 9:30 at night, I'm going to fall asleep.
I guess, structurally, because I don't want to go into, the story of the film too much, because it's just, beat for beat, is very uninteresting. But it's split into 3 chapters, and I've seen people incorrectly label it as a Rashomon type story.
Right.
Where it is told from these 3 different perspectives. And these 3 perspectives are Matt Damon's, Adam Driver's, and Jodie Comer. Marguerite. Because I will be slipping in and out of trying to say these guys' names and stuff and trying to keep it on course. But I think I'm going to end up just dealing with their star names because it's going to be so much fucking easier to follow.
Yeah, we have these 3, we're meant to have 3 perspectives. And I think our main issue, right, was the fact that they're so similar. And I understand you have nuances, right? Mm-hmm. And so one little glance can mean something completely different from one person to another person. And words can be misinterpreted or misconstrued. And I'm wondering if that's maybe what they were going for. It's we all generally have the same sort of perspective on the situation, but then it's nuanced. But what I have a problem with is that we watch the story almost from start to finish through 3 different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only slight changes. So it's like I'm watching like a really annoying version of Prisoner of Azkaban or something.
Well, the problem is that it's, yeah, I mean, that's a reference. God, it's another Harry Potter reference. We've had at least 3 or 4 in the last prevailing episode, so that's all I'm going to say.
Well, in Prisoner of
That's all I'm gonna
Azkaban,
put
she
there.
goes back. It's like you already see everything happen, then she goes back, does a time turner, and
Yeah.
then we basically watch the whole thing again. And so it's like, it's a little annoying to watch this whole thing happen again.
Well, I'm glad that you've appreciate the fact that Harry Potter is annoying. Anyway, let's carry on. So the way that I kind of see this, and the way that I kind of see it unfolding, is that we're not really shown 3 separate perspectives. My main problem is like when the approach is this heavy-handed, subtlety is completely lost on you.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I
it's
was
like-
looking for the changes because you have moments that
Yeah.
are exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, when he shows up, when Jean Le Carrouge and Marguerite show up at the party, for like there's like a birth of a child and it's this big celebration and they're going to get back into society. And then what is his name? Adam Driver, Jacques Legris comes over.
Yeah.
And they clasp hands and it's like they're friends again after all this turmoil in their friendship and all this hardship.
Yeah.
It's almost the same exact thing every single time. And so
You're just shown the same story 3 times.
I'm just like, I'm waiting. I'm like, show me something that's like a little bit different. Show me something that, you know, that Legris thought happened between him and Marguerite that would make him want to do these horrible things. And I don't know, give me a little bit more. Like, don't make me fucking search for the answers here.
The main problem is each of these 3 individuals should recite the story from their particular perspectives, which means that it should be told in a way that curries favor with their perspective. So, like, spoiler alert, Adam Driver fucking rapes Marguerite.
Yes.
And because of the way the story is told, we have to watch that twice.
Yeah. Oh, super cool. Super fucking cool. I get to watch this rape scene again.
Yeah. It's rough.
Awful. God. Oh, I'm so
But
annoyed.
here's the thing, and this is where I kind of like we wrap up this whole idea. Let's look at Kurosawa's Rashomon, right?
Okay.
It's basically an examination of how law and order is dispensed, and it's through a trial, okay? And it tells the story of a husband who is murdered and his wife is raped.
Okay.
And you will always see that, obviously, from the perspectives of the people who feel they saw it, because they're on the side of the husband and the wife, will say, this man did it. It's not until later on that we find out that, obviously, the man who is suspected of doing it unravels the whole story, and what we see is what we finally find out is to be the truth. But those stories feel individual, and they run on their own, and it creates a level of intrigue.
Correct.
Now, unfortunately, the minute that you see Matt Damon's story, because it's the first chapter in the story, that is effectively what just happens. And then what we see is the next 2 perspectives are exactly the same thing, and that's what happens. We just have to subject ourselves to seeing a rape twice, which is, one, from the rapist's point of view, still fucking horrific.
It is horrific. You would think that in his own mind, you know, he's convinced himself that he's in love with this woman who is his, you know, friend.
Of which
in
there's no
quotes.
foundation in the film.
Yeah, it's like his friend's wife. He's saying that he's in love with her. He's met her once. So it's completely delusional, but fine, whatever. Women in this time they're objects and they are property of the husband.
Yeah.
So he's also a Lothario. But I was expecting in his perspective to at least feel like she was coming on to him, or maybe he thought she was coming on to him, or there was some
level of
mutual
evidence to
affection.
To
But she ran away still. He still chases her up the stairs.
Yeah.
And throws her on the bed. And
This is in his perspective
that's
as well.
His perspective.
This is his perspective.
His perspective is still,
Her perspective is
I raped
almost
this woman.
identical. It's just she's a little bit more scared.
oh yeah, she's horrified.
Yeah.
She runs away a little faster in her perspective and screams a lot more.
Yeah.
And he also still makes like the absolute worst vinegar strokes I've ever fucking seen.
Yeah, no, God almighty, like
you're watching a film, and I know what this is about, and I know that we're in this kind of Me Too movement, but it feels a lot like it's pushing that kind of Me Too stuff on you.
Yeah.
Right? And it's written by two men who decided they wanted to do it, but also the
original book's written by a man as
it
well.
It also was written by a man.
Yeah.
And then Matt Damon and Ben Affleck had to bring in a woman. What's her name? Nicole Holofcener. They brought her in after they had already written the two male perspectives. And they go, hey, do you mind writing a female perspective? Because we don't feel right doing it. Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
It is a little weird.
I think that's all a bit weird.
They already wrote them by the time that she got her hands on it. And to like flesh this out. Because they're like, oh, she's not, Marguerite in the book isn't like a real character. She's almost kind of not fleshed out. And so Nicole comes in to write her perspective. Here's
my thing is like each of their perspectives doesn't feel individual. So you wonder like why it's shown in chapters. It's like just show the film from start to finish because it doesn't change.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that they could have gone about it, and I understand that you want to make things a little bit different, and you want to make this story individual, and you want to do something.
They're the two main things that this film desperately needed, which was individual perspectives that felt different.
Yeah, there's only
the way that they were telling them.
The nuances I just don't.
Certainly when it seems very apparent that Adam Driver's character has committed a rape, he has then continued to go on denying that he's committed a rape, but it is fairly obvious that from his perspective and the way that he's doing it, even up until the point where, spoiler alert, he is fucking massacred by Matt Damon in The Last Duel, he's like under the impression that he didn't do anything wrong.
No, he's not under the impression that he didn't do anything wrong. He straight up tells Ben Affleck in the film that he took her against her will. He says that to him. And he says like, oh, well, he's like, oh, did she protest? He goes, yeah, well, like a little bit at first, but, I love her. So it's fine. Yeah, he's justifying it based on the fact that he loves her. Or he thinks that he loves her.
Well, these are also two characters
like she eventually would have wanted
who partake in like group orgies, like seemingly on the daily.
Yeah, they like regularly. There was that moment where like Adam Driver goes up to Ben Affleck's door, and he's slamming on the door while Ben Affleck's having a straight up orgy, and he goes, oh, Matt Damon's suing me for raping his wife. And he's like...
No, he was suing him for the land take. It wasn't for the rape.
Was that what that was?
Yeah, jeez, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
The rape seems like...
one of the many times that Matt Damon sues him.
And I don't want to say this in like the rape seems like Adam Driver's character's coup de grace to like Matt Damon's character.
Yeah,
where he's just like, they fucking hate each other.
Even when Marguerite says to Matt Damon, she tells him she was raped, and he goes... Why is he always doing these things to me?
Yeah.
It's just his, but that's just how it is. Like his pride and his vanity, is, and these things that happen to his wife happen to him.
Yeah.
It's like Adam Driver did it to him, not to her.
Well, it's a domino effect that seems to be occurring between the two characters, but anything that happens to her is just consequently is directed towards him.
Correct.
And the only reason why Matt Damon ended up marrying her in the first place was that her father was desperate to like save himself from this drowning pool of debt that obviously they owed the cousin of the King of France, Pierre, who is Ben Affleck's character. Are we just glossing over Ben Affleck's hair in this fucking movie?
I do want to talk about the hair. I have a lot of things about the hair on my notes.
Yeah, hair is a subtopic on this. I
have a lot of notes
on this podcast episode.
So everyone has noticed the hair. Ben Affleck has bleach blonde hair, a little goatee that looks like a billy goat, and bright blonde eyebrows.
I just can't get past it.
Absolutely striking. And then Matt Damon's got a crazy mullet.
Yeah, but it's because he's always ready to party. That was the quote that they used for.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, that was what they wanted to do. He was always ready to party.
Their idea and their explanation for Matt Damon's hair is that he is so
ready to party,
ready to go to battle and fight for his king, that he doesn't have time to go to the barber.
No.
So he would just take his sword or a knife and just slice off the sides of his hair so it wouldn't get in his face when he's fighting. Yeah. And he doesn't bother with the back.
No. I will say, though, like Matt Damon's character from like start to finish is probably the most interesting one out of the entire bunch. But he also has like a very specific look and a very specific looking helmet that I found quite appealing. Like I found like his whole look and his design I thought was cool. Whether or not you agree with him playing that character, because I'm honestly, I mean, this is Ridley Scott historical drama 101. Like everyone speaks English, everyone's accents are all over the place. The first time we meet Ben Affleck for the first time is like he brings a bit of the Boston to 14th century France. Yeah, like it is rough.
So in terms of the accent, they came up with this accent because
Who did?
Like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They came up with an accent that didn't sound like any accent because, it's the thing with historical dramas, right? They go, oh, we'll do an English accent because English accents sound, old. But they can't do that because obviously they are in France and France is at war with the English. So they can't do an English accent for this particular film. But they also couldn't do a French accent. So they just said, we're going to come up with an accent that it won't be like any other accent. And everyone will do the same one.
It's such a mess. Like, it is such a horrible fucking mess. Like,
there's a woman in the movie who has a French accent.
Yeah, no, Pierre's fucking wife. Pierre's wife in the movie. Ben Affleck's wife, who plays his wife in the movie, has a fucking French accent, but she's forced to speak English. Yes. And she has, like, the wobbliest pregnancy belly that's like...
Yeah, it looked like a little balloon kind of
like a balloon filled with water. Yeah, so yeah, it looked fucking rough. Like, there's a lot of... I mean, that's the thing. Like, I mean, if you've seen Kingdom of Heaven, like, you can understand, like, kind of the amount of... Because that's the thing. Ridley's a world builder, Like, he builds it all from the outside first. And he just kind of says, I feel like it's always, like, his main takeaway is, like, he creates the world so the actors are able to flourish. Now, what seems to lack in that regard is he's able to guide those actors to do the things that are right.
Okay.
I feel like part of me is also like what you should do when you're watching The Last Duel is if you can get the French dub and put subtitles on it, it would feel a lot more authentic.
Yes.
Like big time. You bypass a lot of the accent problems that are obviously quite prevalent here that kind of pull you a wee bit out of the movie.
We certainly have an issue
the fucking haircuts,
that this story is best told by other people, potentially.
The French, correct. Potentially.
Because
the story itself is like the actual story itself is very cool.
Yeah.
Like the idea of like this being like the last trial by combat in French history, I think is very interesting.
It's one of the last ones.
Okay. All right. Well, either way.
There was one in 1547.
Oh, okay.
I was going to talk about it later.
Hey, look, they know how to get shit done. I don't know why they don't just bring it back.
Let God decide.
Yeah, do a Spock and Kirk with it. Like, just throw some fucking swords into a pit and like like
the cable guy.
Yeah, or like that scene in the Star Trek TV show when Kirk fights Spock.
Okay.
Anyway, so
I have one more thing to say about the haircuts, and you're gonna like this.
Okay.
Ridley Scott came up with those hairstyles.
Of course he did.
And Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were like, "Oh, all right, cool, man. We trust you."
Yeah, no, of course he did. Of course he did.
They were like, "That's a little weird, but
yeah,
whatever you say."
Yeah, they are a bit outlandish. I would say like the stylings of the film is a little bit outlandish. The only person who doesn't really look out of place, and probably not. I mean, whoever plays Marguerite, I don't think she's particularly out of place, and I feel like she does quite a good job.
Yeah, she's great
with as little as she's actually given. Is Adam Driver. I think Adam Driver really fits this quite well.
He looks like he belongs everywhere, and he is everywhere right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's in everything.
Because like the only other thing I saw him in that I would consider, say, like a historical drama would be Silence.
He looks the same.
He looks exactly the same in that. Like he basically walks off Star Wars, and he looks exactly the same going into this.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
that's his trademark look. He doesn't change.
No. I mean, good for him. Thing is, Ben Affleck has some of the best lines in this movie.
He had a great time. There was an interview I was reading between Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and they asked, like, what's your favorite role that they've done? And Matt Damon said that Ben Affleck's role in this movie was his favorite that he's ever seen him do.
He really does kind of chew at the scenery a wee bit.
He's hilarious.
Like, once he's able to, like get past whatever he's doing when we initially see him talk. Because you initially see him at the beginning, because it starts at the Last Duel at the very beginning of the movie.
Like unimaginable bits of comedy in this movie that you would never expect, and they almost always come from Ben Affleck.
Yeah,
always.
there's a bit where Adam Driver's staying up late doing some work and stuff like that, and then Ben Affleck comes in and he's completely fucking hammered. Obviously, still a wee bit sex drunk, and he comes in and he basically takes an abacus and throws it on the ground, and he goes, "Recalculate." And then as he's walking out, he goes, "Sorry."
There's that scene where Matt Damon's having sex, Carouge,
Yeah.
where he's having sex with Marguerite, and they're trying to get an heir.
Yeah, they have sex a lot of missionary sex going on, a lot of heaving going on.
Ugh.
Of course, as you're always
because
aimed
as
to do.
you know, in the Middle Ages, in order to conceive a child, you both have to come at the same time. Did you know that?
I've heard it.
Yeah, that's how you make a baby. It's different nowadays.
Because the baby doesn't come unless you're both happy.
You both orgasm together.
Yes.
In pleasurable sex, and that's how a baby is made.
Yes, 100%. That is exactly how it happens. Yeah.
And so Matt Damon or De Carouge asks Marguerite after they have sex. He goes, "I hope that was pleasurable for you." Every time Marguerite's asked about sex, they always ask, "Oh, do you enjoy sex with your husband? Are you enjoying sex with your husband?" And she never can pull a straight face because he's bad at sex.
Yeah, like I say, it's a lot of kind of heavy heaving missionary shit that's kind of awkward.
He's got one mission, and the mission is not to give her pleasure.
No, this motherfucker lays waste to everybody in his path.
Including her vagina.
Yes. So when he's going in there like he plows a battle at. There's a point. Because here's the thing,
poor woman.
There is war in this movie, and this is probably the best parts of the movie, other than to say the last 15 minutes, and it's basically it's grim, visceral for the most part. I mean, there's a part. Oh my god. Matt Damon does not give a fuck. His character is just mowing down everybody like a berserker.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a bit, and I love this bit. There's a scene where he takes part of the chainmail that he takes off somebody else, and he cleaves someone's fucking head with it. He punches it into basically mince.
Yes.
And just before then, as he's carving this path through this batch of soldiers, there's a point where he impales someone with the hilt of his sword. The sword ends up in the ground. The hilt ends up in the ground. And this poor man's face ends up with the blade through the middle of his temple.
Yeah.
And Matt Damon forces the poor man all the way through the blade of that sword, basically splitting his head into 4 different parts.
Yeah.
Before obviously beating a man in the face with a piece of chainmail. There's a lot of very cool, grim-looking, bloody fights in this movie. It doesn't hurt to see more of it.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I feel like he's using her the fact that she's saying that she was raped by his mortal enemy as an excuse to just fight this fucking guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not about him defending her honor, in as so much it's about him defending his own honor.
Yeah. Well, he's growing mistrustful of her because she can't provide him with an heir.
Correct.
And again, the point where she is raped 6 months later, she's 6 months pregnant with a baby.
But remember, you can't have a baby unless you had a pleasure. So then everyone's angry at her, saying well, you must have found the pleasure.
Well, here's the thing. You just shouldn't let God in the bedroom. I mean, that should just be, 101.
This is the second film that we've done that's got someone beating the shit out of a horse.
Yeah, fucking Matt Damon goes to town on a horse, on a stallion with a paddle at one point. Well, the thing is, you see the stallion's, raging horse cock, erection, trying to mount this mare, because there came a point in the movie where we got, close to the end, and I'm like, Laura, where's this dick? Because I'm like, look, the only dick we've seen has been the fucking horse cock that we saw halfway through.
Want to get into the dick scene, if there's anything you want to say about the duel, I liked it. I thought it was really cool, and apparently they did it as historically accurate by the records as they could, which is nice.
Wow, that's really interesting.
It was like 3 passes on the joust, and then like a hand-to-hand thing. I'm sure it has a lot more flourish to it.
So, to be fair, the last 15 minutes of the movie, which is also the dick scene, by the way,
very muted, but
is the aftermath of the duel itself and like what we see. But the last 15 minutes of the movie, I remember saying it like at the end of the movie, and obviously I feel like an idiot now saying it, but almost kind of redeemed some of the faults that the movie had like during the course of its telling of this story. But I mean, I take that back now because I mean I rated this film accordingly. But
I don't really go by those standards. Like I've got to be gripped through the whole thing. But anyway, tell me about, is there anything that you want to say about the duel that you really liked? I don't really remember necessarily anything in particular because it's all just a mash of metal and grunting.
It's very, I think the duel from start to finish is very cool. It's very interesting, very gripping. Because this is the only part in the movie where I was like, this motherfucker better kill Adam Driver. Like, he has to succeed in this mission.
Oh,
because
otherwise we wouldn't have a story.
No. But then also it's kind of like, we already know what the outcome is, but it's able to grip me at least to a certain degree where I was like, yeah, I want him to fucking massacre this man, because I'm like, yeah, he can't get away with this.
Of course.
Fuck him. Yeah. And I mean, he dispatches him in a fucking brutal way that's like, it was good. It's really cool. That stuff's really cool. And like when fucking javelins or jousting posts, what would you call them?
Oh my god.
Either way, when they're like
the joust,
when they're splintering against like shields and stuff like that, and you can see the impact that they've hit them with, and then when they get on their feet and they start fighting with their fucking weapons.
The fact that they were able to do 3 passes in the joust is really quite something, and not fall off their horse.
Yes.
It kind of stands to how strong these dudes are.
Yeah, no, like it was fucking madness. But like we said,
this is why I like going to medieval times so much. Have that nice dinner show, watch the joust.
So they have like 3 passes with like splintering wood and shit like that.
Yeah, it's fucking cool. And then you get to pick your own knight.
Bit of wood stuck in your fucking rotisserie chicken that they've gave you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know they call like the waitresses there? They call them wenches.
Yeah, they sure do.
Yeah.
And then the wench refills your Coca-Cola, your Pepsi.
That's right.
One time,
Pepsi wench.
When I went to medieval times for my birthday, and I was picked by the Green Knight as like his lady that he was fighting for.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't even know it was my birthday. I just got picked.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Well, there you go.
And I had a little sash.
How old were you?
Too old? I don't know. I was probably in like 26 or 27.
Oh, that's fine. No, I thought you were like a teenager and the Green Knight's like giving you the wink. I'd be like, hey.
Yeah, it's gross, right?
Enough of that, eh? You're not actually in
the
14th
Green Knight
century
is,
France.
Consistently the bad knight, the evil knight. So he'll never win, by the way, at medieval times. Spoilers. We're at the end of the film. It's going to be spoiled. Adam Driver gets murdered.
So yeah, he tries to get him to confess.
Yeah.
He sticks a knife near his throat. Well, no, of course not. Well, yeah, well, God's will does not favor Adam Driver, unfortunately. So he gets it in the fucking mouth, and you can hear it. You can hear like the blade grinding against his teeth and stuff like that when he puts it in. Like it's fucking.
It's really awful.
It's gross and it's awesome. But they're lauded, they're applauded, they're sent through the city as heroes, and then that's also intercut with this moment where they strip Adam Driver's dead body.
Yep, down to
all these clothes,
his little kind of diaper that he's wearing.
Pretty much, yeah.
His diaper cloth. But I remember watching it, and I'm like, oh my god, we have 5 minutes left of this movie or less, and I'm like, where is that penis? Because I knew going into the movie that Adam Driver is naked in this movie, but I also knew that he was dead. That's what was told to me months ago before I even saw this film.
Right.
Spoilered.
Yeah.
Totally spoilered for me.
So I guess probably because of the way this scene kind of comes about, I guess this is where we'll probably have an argument about it to some degree. But they drag
and I?
Potentially, because the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of like, is it actually his dick? And it's probably not.
Okay.
But here's the thing: like, they strip his body off, they basically drag him through the arena and through town by horse, attached to his legs, and he is fucking dead.
Oh yeah.
Right? And the next time that we see him, because intercut with them going through town, being lauded and things like that, it's like, yay, truth has been served, God's will, whatever. And they strap him up upside down on this platform, basically to display him to the crowd, to be like, look, this is what happens when you lie.
Yeah.
God will out you.
Yeah, of
right?
course.
And this is obviously where we see it.
Yeah, this is the scene. This comes in at the very end, like we've said, 2 hours, 21 minutes, and 50 seconds.
So this movie's 2 hours, like fucking two hours, 32 minutes or something.
Yeah. So it's right at the end, but they string him up by his feet and they hang him there. And yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if it's Adam Driver. They probably didn't string Adam Driver up by his feet.
There is
naked.
no way they strung Adam Driver up.
It could have been a CG man.
It wasn't a CG man. It's like Rubberman.
Rubberman?
It's a Rubberman, yeah.
Okay, well, it was also far away, so I don't know. But it was, it was quite graphic regardless of whether or not. I mean, it's meant to be Adam Driver, so, as much research as I can do, I don't know.
The amount of gratuity just in this ending sequence, like this last 15 minutes of the film, is just something that's like completely lost in the rest of the film, which kind of just has this clean manufactured quality about it. At least like when we have this last 15 minutes, you feel like it's very real. Like it feels very visceral and you're like disturbed by it to a certain degree.
I want to disagree with you a little bit because I felt fairly disturbed for most of the film because it's intercut with those war scenes and then you get the double rape, which fucking sucked so much.
I would also say, like, barring those things you've mentioned, right? Because
that's
obviously,
a lot of the movie, though.
Yeah, but that's not all of the movie. There's also a lot of the stuff that you're going from scene to scene because, again, like Ridley's directing style at this point, it goes from blue if it's outside to orange if it's inside. And if it's inside during the day and you see a window, it's also blue, but if there's a fire going, it's also orange.
Right.
So it really basically goes into these two color casts the entire time. But for the most part, because of the way that is, it feels incredibly manufactured. And at any point, it feels like it loses a lot of its authenticity. And here's the thing, is like, he's such a great world builder. The problem is this story itself feels incredibly insular.
Right.
And it's very much actor focused because it's a film that sets itself in like a bunch of rooms and folk just having conversations. That's basically all it is.
And then horses running here and horses running there.
Yes,
and then back and forth.
At least the fighting breaks it up a little bit. And obviously, unfortunately, we have to see a rape twice because I don't know, for whatever reason, we needed to see it twice.
Yeah, doesn't.
Other than that, like, because of the way that I feel that, the whole thing feels very manufactured. It feels very kind of pristine, which is not something I kind of want in my dirty, grungy war drama. Like, I really don't want that.
They could have been dirtier.
Could have been dirtier. It could have felt a little bit more authentic.
When you're watching a movie set in this age, and you're in the 14th century, I feel like I can smell the film.
Yeah.
And I didn't smell anything.
No.
I only saw
that was
blue.
That was something I got from watching Kingdom of Heaven, and I don't think Kingdom of Heaven is a great film.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if you are going to watch it, watch the 4-hour director's cut because it,
Yikes.
at least that when characters leave as opposed to they just don't turn up again. I would say at least with that, like there's a kind of like there's an energy about it. There's a kinetic feel about like how everything is, and it feels as muddy, it's dirty. It feels like you get like if someone's bleeding, there's mud in that cut. Like it feels like everything,
right?
And it like as obviously his filmmaking has gone on, I feel like it's just getting a little cleaner.
Yeah, it was.
I feel like this is one of the cleanest films he's ever made.
Especially, again, for being in the 14th century. Very weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
It just needed to feel a bit dirtier.
I don't know. I mean, the dirtiest part was when Adam Driver was strung up on that platform.
Yeah, and that's
like the gallows almost.
Yeah, like that whole 15-minute section where they're fighting, and then it obviously ends up with this crescendo of like his body being displayed and stuff like that. This could have been a short film. I mean, they could have. I mean, like we already kind of mentioned, they should have just cut out 2 of the perspectives and then
just told her story.
Just told her story, because
which is the true story. Because nothing changes. Okay, I'm not going to argue about this anymore.
No.
Matt Damon's character.
It ends with her with her son in the field.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 title cards that basically say...
that Matt Damon died during the Crusades a few years later, which is fucking awesome.
That's fine.
And then she never remarried. Goddamn right. She didn't need to get remarried.
No, well, the men in this film were scum.
I kind of went through everything that I wanted to say and stuff that I didn't even want to say.
Wow.
There aren't really any accolades out in it so much because it's new, and anything that has come out that are award like it hasn't won anything.
I'll be surprised if it did well. I mean, here's the thing, because like there's a lot more behind like what Ridley feels people should be going to the cinema to see. I find it hard that this is the hill that he wants to die on, when basically in the same year he releases The Last Duel and House of Gucci, 2 pretty much mediocre experiences. House of Gucci is maybe better.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do anything special. It just kind of tells the story. And to be honest, you could cut the 2 films together and be like, oh, well, they look exactly the same.
Yeah, it's blue.
Yeah, his films have progressively got more blue, even to the point where when he released the final cut of Blade Runner, all he did was he just put a bunch of blues in the midtones just to try and distinguish it from his director's cut. But yeah. I
did want to talk about this thing that made me laugh when Ridley Scott went on Mark Maron's WTF podcast.
Okay.
And Mark Maron asked him why The Last Duel grossed $27 million on a budget of $100 million. And it's made more since, but not that much more. It's like sitting at $30 million.
Okay.
But Ridley Scott said back, I think what it boils down to, what we've got today are audience who were brought up on these fucking cell phones. The millennials who do not ever want to be taught anything unless you tell it on the cell phone. And he said, this is a broad stroke, but I think what we're dealing with right now is with Facebook. This is a misdirection that has happened where it's given the wrong kind of confidence to this latest generation, I think. So apparently the millennial generation is not allowed to have any confidence, and because we have too much confidence, we don't like his movie.
As a millennial myself, I don't feel like I have any confidence whatsoever. But
yeah, I think that he just doesn't understand this generation whatsoever.
No.
We're suffering, guys. We're suffering.
No, I would feel like personally, like maybe like you can blame the marketing and stuff like that, but maybe 20th Century Fox just didn't want to put a film about rape at the forefront of their roster.
Saw the trailer. I saw the trailer of this movie and I laughed. I go, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
You've got these we already talked about the hairstyles. It's absolutely wild.
It's very
I thought it was
bonkers.
Funny. And then I realized what it was about. I'm like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
Like it just feels weird. This is right up my alley. I love period dramas. Give them to me. And then this is just
I love a medieval movie. Like I love that stuff. I think that stuff's super cool. That's why I got excited about Ridley doing the Crusades, because on paper you're like, fuck yeah, that's going to be fucking awesome. But then when you obviously see the film, you're kind of disappointed by it in a way.
Okay, so do you know what I would have wanted in this film?
What's that?
A scene where Matt Damon and Ben Affleck actually kiss each other. That scene was shot.
What?
Yes. There was a cut scene from the wedding. So you know how you have like this kiss of peace, which is actually quite normal, like in the medieval like nuptial solemn ceremony.
Okay.
So where the kiss
like the
extends
boy
from the
kisses,
priest. It's like the kiss from God, and it extends down to everyone. Apparently, it would have been to everybody in the ceremony. So like the guests and everything. So
Super
then there would have been
event.
It would have been the moment where Matt Damon he gave his solemn kiss to Ben Affleck, and they said it was their first on-screen kiss.
Wow.
But Ridley Scott cut it because he said it would be too distracting.
Yeah, that's too distracting. Yeah, I was going to make a joke, but I don't even think that's funny either. So,
Ryan,
yes.
would you recommend this movie?
See, this is a really hard one because I felt like there was parts of it where I was like, look, I want to enjoy this. The problem is it does a very good job of just like pulling you out of the entire experience, and it just ends up being one of those like trademark Ridley Scott like period pieces where like the stuff that's done really well, like the fighting, and I guess I would say like how it looks, but I mean I don't think that's particularly true. There's a lot of candles
Set
in this
design,
film.
perhaps?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, like there's been very good examples of films like this done this way, and I'm like, oh, there's loads of candles in this movie, and I'm like, oh, Barry Lyndon has like a bunch of scenes that were just lit with candlelight. And it's like, well, why didn't they try and do something like that? It's a little bit easier now, obviously, with the advent of digital technology and things. And I'm like, well, there's just nothing particularly remarkable about this film, and there's certainly nothing in this that makes it like any different from some of the things that he's made before. And I guess like we've spent almost the entirety of this episode pretty much shitting all over it. And the problem is it doesn't come from a place where you're like, oh, this is like weird. So like it's not like an in the cut situation. And I'll always kind of refer to that as like my barometer for quality. But at least within the cut, like I could pick out certain things and be like, that's fucking weird, right? With this one, I'm like, well, it centers on a rape, and it then centers on these perspectives, and it feels like its whole trajectory and its perspective from the writing team in particular. And if this is the same as how the book's written, then for fuck's sake, what the fuck were they thinking? Like, where there's so many missteps, and there's so many things about this film that just... There's parts as well, which I noticed, and I'm watching it, where the camera will move unnaturally. It'll track somewhere. But then the only reason for the camera to move at any point would feel like it was leading you towards something in some sense of the emotion. And then it cuts back to something else. It comes back, camera's back where it was before, and you're like, oh. So I kind of feel like maybe The Last Duel is another one of those Ridley Scott moments where what they shot was maybe for something that's a 3, 4, maybe 5 hour film, which he tends to do, and he'll probably release a director's cut at some point because he does this all the time.
Yeah.
So maybe we will see an extended version of this movie, but I'm like, why the fuck would you want to?
Correct.
Certainly when the very basis of it and what you're expecting it to do, it missteps very hard on just those very basic, simple things of just like trying to tell a story from multiple perspectives, when effectively all it does is it just tells the same story with the illusion of it being from different perspectives.
Yes.
They should have just told the story, made it shorter, get us to the fucking duel quicker, because that's the best bit in the entire movie, and just fuck all the rest of it.
I agree. I think trying to put that artistic flair in telling the story in a different way fell absolutely flat.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And I mean, we already have a fantastic example of how a film like that is made.
I would typically not recommend this movie, and I don't think I've ever said that before on this podcast. I did not like this movie.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy it. I fell asleep a lot, not only because I was bored, it's just because I just didn't like it. There were things that made me laugh, but it felt out of place, and I didn't like being subjected to that rape scene 2 times. If this had been made differently, like we were saying, I probably would have liked it a little bit more. Maybe felt more engaged. But no, I think what you could do, and if you wanted to watch it and you're like, oh guys, you shat on this movie this entire time, maybe you could watch it and then fast forward to the end, and then you could watch the duel and you'll be like, that was fucking awesome, and then turn it off.
Yeah.
And then be satisfied. Be satisfied with that, personally. Yeah. That's what I would do.
That's the thing. The only reason to see like horrible things like that like more than once is to get a different idea on why it happened or how it happened, not just tell us the same thing but from a slightly different camera angle. It's like basically they did the exact same thing, they just used 2 slightly different takes.
Yeah.
And that was
one more subtle, one more irate.
Yeah, but basically they lead towards the same thing and the takes are effectively the same. So
oh no, absolutely.
I'm just disappointed.
In terms of ratings, I gave the penis scene a 2 out of 5 stars for visibility and context.
There's so many issues with the film just in general. Like by the time we came to like rating it, I like that moment in the film. Like I don't know if like it appeals to like my darker nature, but stuff like that, I'm like, I don't know how much of that we'll see going forward on the podcast. So I mean, I quite liked what they did there. But
are you talking about the nude scene?
Yeah.
Okay.
But and this is a big but. It's just too little, kind of too late, and it's just a fucking rubber model. Like that's all it is. I know it's meant to be Adam Driver, but it's just a rubber model.
What's your rating?
1.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm dive bombing on this.
What's your rating of the final film? The final rating of the film.
So I think like when it finished, I was like 3.5 because that last 15 minutes, I was like, it was going to spread, and I was starting to think about it, and then I started thinking about like what Ridley was saying about it, and then just like kind of hit the whole history of it all, and I was like, why is it our fault your film didn't succeed, sir?
Oh, I very much agree.
I'm like, I just watched it. I didn't even bother going to see it in the goddamn cinema.
I did want to see it in the cinema.
And I was like,
line up properly with our
I was
schedules.
Like, why do you feel like it deserves more than what it's getting? Like, why do you feel that way?
He loves his movies.
And I also love this man, and I love the things that he does, but sometimes you got to call someone out and be like, yo.
So what did you rate it then? Overall? After,
because of everything else that surrounds this movie, it probably deserves a 1.
Well, I gave it a 2. I gave it a 2-star rating. The film, you've already heard me complaining. I'm not going to go on and on about it, but it's I did not find pleasure in this film. I did not enjoy it. Didn't enjoy it. I didn't hate it like I hate a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of good things lately, and this one wasn't one of them.
No.
Which is sad. I was pretty excited about this movie. And instead of like a real Adam Driver dick, we got like what was probably like a body bag.
A rubber cast, and that's it, really. I
didn't even describe why I gave it 2 stars. So with the dick scene in itself, it's far away. And you know, if we would just pretend like it's Adam Driver, it's far away, and then it like turns around. So you don't really get like a terribly good look at it. Which is so gross to say because it's like such a fucked up scene.
Yeah.
And obviously visibility is poor and context very poor. But I'm happy about that context because he got what he deserved.
Yeah.
Fuck that dude.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like it. I just think in terms of like, it's just too little too late by that point.
I'm sorry to put you through this, Ryan. But we'll maybe have a more fun one on the next go around, but I appreciate you chatting with me and arguing about this film.
Yeah, no, it's been fine. Hopefully the next one we do is better.
I'll pick a better one next time.
Thank fuck.
Well, coming to you from a very uncomfortable place, I have been Laura.
And unfortunately, I'm still Ryan.
Thanks for being here, guys, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much.
Bye bye. That's my you know where that bye bye comes from? Drew Barrymore's character in E.T.
Oh, really?
Bye bye.
There was an SNL sketch back in the day where they were airline hosts and they go bye bye.
Oh, okay.
Bye bye.
Yeah, no, that mine comes from
Rob Schneider.
Comes from a more innocent place. So, there you go. Bye-bye.